Okay, welcome back to another Friday Brew, episode 4. Got my cup of tea ready. Here we are, Team Gryffindor, obviously. Who else would it be? Sorry, what was that? Team Slytherin? Get out. Get out. Open that door. Get out. Shut the door behind you. And then come back in once you've redeemed yourself. Now, I'm not a massive Harry Potter fan. I mean, I don't mind it, but I should say I'm not a massive fan as in I don't know everything about it. But I do like the movies. Got to be honest. Not read the books. But I've watched all the movies and I like them. Some of them we just saw on Netflix. Oh no, that's a lie actually. Just watched them on DVD, Blu-ray. And then there was 2 or 3 we watched at the cinema. I was at the Deathly Hallows. Was it split into 2 parts? Or was it 3? 2, I think. So yeah, as you can see, as I say, not a massive fan, as in particularly knowledgeable about it, but I do quite like them. And then also was the what you call it, the Fantastic Beasts. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. We watched that, and again, I thought it was quite good. And I know there's a sequel coming out, isn't there? Is it this year or next year? So yeah. But if I had to be in a house, would absolutely, 100%, Team Gryffindor. You know it. So, yeah, that's a weird start. So yeah, Friday Brew, and it made me laugh because I was looking at my videos the other day. Not in depth, but the videos that I've made this year. Because I thought, you know what, in terms of variety, I didn't feel I'd done a lot this year specifically. And that's right, I haven't. Because at the time of doing this vid, if we include this one, I've made 5 vids this year, and 4 of them have been the Friday Brew, and the other one was a pickup vid. So variety out of the window. So I need to address that. I need to address that going forward, because I've always kind of prided myself on variety. I like that. I like how I'm quite an eclectic channel. You know, whether it's just the gaming stuff, or not just, but whether it's gaming, music, football, vlogs, which kind of cover everything really, whether it's like a diary vid or a magazine overview, or whatever it is, I kind of like that stuff. It's good to be varied. I think so anyway, for me, and it hasn't been this year. So going forward, the next few weeks, the next couple of months, or whenever, then yeah, that's what I'm going to have to do. Go back to the drawing board a little bit. Maybe think of a few different things to do as well, possibly that. But we'll see. And also the length of vids, in particular the Friday Brews. Now, you'll see already, because even though I'm making this video now, obviously you're going to see the final product. So you'll see how long this video lasts right now. You can see it's probably, I'm going to hazard a guess, it's probably about an hour, at least, maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. But the very first Friday Brew, like I say, this is the 4th one. The first one lasted an hour, or just under. And I think for a vlog, that's pretty reasonable, right? That's fine. And then the second and the third, they were just clocked in at just under 2 hours. Now, admittedly, there were the questions which I was answering, and that obviously doubled the length of the vids, pretty much. But it's quite long. So what I was thinking, really, is, because what I kind of had been doing, if I had an idea that I wanted to talk about, like a topic to talk about on a Friday Brew, or if I had 2 or 3 that came to mind, I'd just talk about them on that Friday Brew. But I think, really, the best thing to do is to save them, spread them out a little bit. And then that way I don't run out of content. Because if you talked about everything that came to mind, you know, the next week or the week after, you'd probably struggle for topics. So maybe just pick 1 or 2, go with it, and then save the others for the following weeks. Maybe that's the best thing to do. And also it could help bring the time of the vid down, which I think will please a lot of people. Obviously, I use the timestamps, so no excuses if you don't like long vids, because you can just click to whatever you want to watch. But still, you know, I do get it. Not everybody likes long videos, I understand. I like some long videos, and I like watching short ones. I guess it depends. So, now, in terms of topics, this particular vid is going to be a little bit short, but that's only because the last sort of 24, 48 hours-ish, I've started to feel a little bit coldy, a little bit fluey. It's kind of bubbling under, you know, that feeling of like a scratchy throat. So when I start coughing during the vid, I'll try and maybe edit it out as best as possible. But no promises. We'll see. So the first topic that I want to talk about is, it's a gift I've received, really. Now, every now and again, this has happened over the years. I can't remember the last time. Probably, it would have been last year, I imagine. But every single time it happens, and I'd say since I started making videos, I've probably had maybe 6, 7, 8 occasions where people have been kind enough overly kind to say, you know, hey Alex, I've got this item, and sometimes they've told me what it is, other times they haven't, and kind of kept it a surprise. I've got this item, I think you'll like it, and I want to send it to you. And I've always felt really bad, always taking things off people. Obviously, it's a beautiful and lovely gesture. I really appreciate it, obviously, naturally. But just the way, you know, it feels for me, the way I am as a person, I don't like kind of taking things off people. I've always been that way, even as a kid. Whether it's off my own family, it's just like, oh, you're all right. I just don't want it. Well, I say I don't want it. I don't like it. I feel uncomfortable. But I do appreciate, obviously, the gesture. And so anyway, long story short, here's Steve, AdiSneakerFreak. And when I say Adi, obviously that stands for Adidas, not Adidas. Or is it? Is it Adidas? Is it Adidas? It's Adidas. Is it Nike or Nike? It's Nike. Is it aluminium or aluminum? Aluminium. Is it, what else is there? Herb or herb? Obviously it's herb. I can do this all night, so let's stop there. So, but I do think it's Adidas. I've always said Adidas, but I guess Steve will probably know best. But Steve, AdiSneakerFreak, he's on YouTube. I'm sure you're aware of Steve's channel. I've probably been following Steve for 4 years or so, something like that. Might even be longer. And I think the funny thing about Steve as well is I didn't discover his channel through gaming. I think it was through like football books and stuff. He's really into like kind of coffee table books and his trainers, obviously Adidas, fashion, music, and his games as well. But it wasn't games where I first stumbled upon his channel. And then just over time, he's added stuff to his, a bit like me in a sense, in terms of variety. And I like that. And I've always liked his presentation. It just looks really cool, and he's really good at what he does. So anyway, the other day he sent me a message on Twitter actually, and he said, "Right, Alex," he said, "I've got an item." He says, "I know you'll like it, and I want to send it to you." And as I touched upon a few seconds ago, because me being me, I feel a little bit bad, a little bit guilty, taking things off people. I thought, I don't want it, not in a nasty way, because I didn't know what it was. So I sent Steve a message back, and I was like, I went, "You're all right, mate." I said, "Thank you very much. I appreciate it." I said, I tell you what, to try and knock him back a little bit. I said, "I tell you what, next time I'm in the UK, just buy me a pint or something like that." And I thought that'd be the end of it. I wasn't being ungrateful. I 100% appreciate it. Lovely gesture. But just, as I keep saying, me being me, I feel bad. You're all right. And he replied back and he was like, "No, it's all right." He says, "Just let me know your address." So I can't knock him back, because otherwise I'd have to have said, no, you're not having my address. And that would look really bad. So he kind of, he got me there. How can you come back to that? Just give me your address. You can't say no. So really, a little bit under duress, well, a lot. I reluctantly kind of said, okay. I said, but, you know, on the provision that, you know, I'm definitely going to have to get you something back. I don't know when, but it will have to happen. And I know I've promised that in the past to a few people who have sent me stuff, lovely gestures as well. Ash81B4U, I'm pretty certain I owe Ash something from, he sent me a few things over the years. And I think I have sent him 1 or 2 things, but I can't remember if that was like kind of part of a trade or whether it was a gift. I just don't know. But yeah, Ash, if you're watching this, I probably do owe you something. And now, Steve, you're added to the list. And anyone else out there who's sent me stuff over the years and who I haven't returned a favour. It's not like I've forgotten. Maybe I'm a bit lazy. Maybe I have forgotten, actually. But I've just reminded myself. So anyway, so Steve, you know, he said, "No, mate," he said, "honestly," he says, "you'll like it. I've got it. Just send me your address." So I said, "Okay, mate. You know, lovely gesture, thank you," and all the rest of it. Anyway, so it arrived the other day. And before I put it on Twitter, put a little picture of it and talked about it and what have you, I sent Steve a message saying thanks, obviously. And I'll show you what it is. And it's so good. I'm so pleased with it. It's absolutely brilliant. And it's a book. It's called The Football Shirts Book, The Connoisseur's Guide, by a guy called Neil Hurd. Now, the cool thing about this is when I opened it up, it's a personalised message from the author, from Neil. And it says, "To Blue Tonic 78, hope you enjoy, from me and your pal, AdiSneakerFreak Steve, cheers." And then it's signed, and then he's wrote Neil. So really nice touch there. And it's such a really good book. It's basically, if you like your football, and if you like your music and fashion, as you can see, it's just like a history of football shirts, but also how they tie into society over the years. There's some really cool stuff here as well. Look at that. the West Germany shirts, and the Napoli one with Mars on from Maradona, the Maradona era. It's just so many cool stuff. So many shirts that I remember as well as a kid. Great designs, and you've got like Shaun Ryder. Is that Shaun Ryder? It looked like him. Yeah, Shaun Ryder with Bez posing in their football shirt. So as I say, it's very kind of, it deals with culture and society and fashion. There's Michael Jackson there. In what shirt has he got on there? Is that a Nice? A Nice shirt. Bob Marley. So yeah, it's really cool. And there's another one. I think, oh wait, oh look at that. That shirt there, there's New Order, the New Order video for the World in Motion song. Everybody knows that. That blue shirt, I absolutely love it. I'd love to get it. And then we've got Oasis, of course, with their City shirts. So you can see what the book's like. And it's absolutely fantastic. So if you love your football shirts, if you love your music and your fashion and the culture and all that kind of stuff, this really is a book to get. And fortunately for me, Steve, unbelievably, thought of me. And it's just that thought as well, that somebody out there that you've just you've met them online through YouTube or Twitter or whatever it is, and at some moment during the day in their life, while you're on the other side of the world, they've thought to themselves, I'll get that for Alex. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It genuinely is unbelievable how people can be that nice. In a world that we live in where you see so much ridiculous stuff happening, so much anger, going on, so unnecessary. And then there's people like that. And let's face it, people like Steve and people like me and people like you, we make up 99% of the world, the nice people. And it is the extreme minority of idiots who ruin it. But yeah, it highlights, it confirms that people are good, really. There's just a very, very, very small percentage of lunatics. And don't let them ruin your day. We always stumble upon people on YouTube who want to drag you down. They want to leave a silly comment. They want to thumb down, whatever it is. On Twitter, they'll slag you off. You'll get into an argument. Just don't get involved. Or try not to. Sometimes you do. But try not to. Just walk away. Be the better person. And instead, just surround yourself with positivity and nice people. So, yeah, if you're not aware of Steve, and in all honesty, you probably will be, because I know a lot of people watching this comment on Steve's vids, and they certainly know him, like on Twitter as well. But if you're not aware of Steve, check out his channel. He's a really nice guy, very chilled out, and I like his variety. He doesn't do too many vids, but when he does, they're always good. They're always worth a watch. So, thank you very much, Steve, again. Obviously, we've talked on Twitter, and clearly we'll continue to talk. But, yeah, I absolutely love it. It's amazing. And it's one of those books that you can kind of just read a little bit, put it down, pick it up, read it again. And every time you read it, you can reread it. And it just seems new. It seems fresh. It's the ideal kind of coffee table book, which, Steve, I know you love. And, yeah, it's a really, really good. And I like at the back there, got Jamie Carragher has said something. He's put, boss little book this. Great trip down memory lane. Boss little book. I mean, I know that's Scouse talk, but that made me laugh. So, oh, and another thing I'll say about this is there's a guy that I know, really weirdly, who I know on Twitter, and I think it was probably a few months back, I think, and he sent me a message. He followed me on Twitter, and then eventually I followed him back because he kept kind of commenting and liking my tweets and stuff. And I thought, he seems a nice guy, I'll follow him back. And he's a City fan as well, so obviously that was another good reason to follow him back. And then one day, again, maybe a few months back, he sent me a message, and he was like, oh, hi Alex, I'm thinking about getting an Amiga, and all this kind of stuff. And I replied back, and I'm like, oh yeah, you should get this, that, the other, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I was watching your vid the other day. And I was like, what? Wait, you watch my vids? I just thought he just found me on Twitter. He's like, oh no, I've been watching you on YouTube for ages. I had absolutely no idea, because I don't think he's ever left a comment. So that was kind of funny, just to talk to this person who'd been following me for a while on Twitter, who I just thought knew me from Twitter, but no, he'd been watching me on YouTube for ages. And anyway, long story short, he's really into his Manchester City football shirts, his big collector. And he's in this book. So what are the chances of that? That's really funny when I saw that. And he said it in a tweet as well. He was like, oh, I'm in that book. And I was like, yeah, I know, I saw you. Unbelievable. It's a small world, isn't it? It really is. So anyway, Steve, thank you very much. Lovely gesture. Brilliant book. I absolutely love it. And yeah, I do owe you one. So that's that. Now, speaking of football, we'll briefly talk about football. Part of this may be interesting, it may not be. But I just want to get something off my chest. First of all, I'll have a bit of a swig. On the last Friday Brew, there was a question about whether City could win the quadruple. And I replied with absolute confidence that, yes, of course they're going to win everything. Of course they are. And the very next week, they lost to Wigan in the FA Cup. Now, it shouldn't really be a surprise in the sense that Bournemouth lost to Wigan, my second team, if you can have two teams. Well, I do, so you can. And then, of course, Wigan beat West Ham. So they've got previous. They've beaten Premier League opposition twice this season. So that's not what bothers me. It was a big shock. You know, the days of me getting angry about football, they're long gone. Of course, I want my team to do well, teams. But it doesn't bother me anymore. I don't get angry. I used to as a kid, but it's like, whatever. Just win the next game. It's really not a concern. You know, only one team can win the league, or only one team can win a cup competition. You know, if you didn't win, try harder. It's as simple as that with me. But that relates to the game, really, against Wigan. Because for me, City didn't really try. Not hard enough. Obviously, they lost the game. Now, sometimes you can be unlucky and lose, granted. But I just thought it was a really lame performance. I don't know why. I can't even blame the manager, Pep, for the team. He put out a decent team. It was a strong team. A couple of players were rested, but it was basically pretty much a full-strength team. And it was just a really lazy performance. What I say annoyed me, even though I said I didn't get annoyed, it kind of did annoy me a little bit, was the last 10 minutes of the game, City was strolling the ball around, just literally just passing it around really casually, with 10 minutes left, needing a goal. And they were playing the last 10 minutes like it was the first 10 minutes, like there was 10 minutes gone. And it was like, there's 10 minutes left. You need a goal. Go forward, score. And they were just casually strolling it around. And I just thought, oh, this is poor. And I remember looking at the clock and seeing it like 81 minutes. And my hands on my head in my hands, just thinking, this is just not gonna happen. They're not gonna score. 82 minutes, 83, 84, nothing. They just weren't pressing. It was just ridiculous. And then the time ran out. And there was a couple of half chances at the end. I think was it Danilo? I think got forward, and even Claudio Bravo was forward, and I think he got his head on one of the corners as well. But it was just, it was poor. A really poor, flat performance, and disappointing. But of course, the Premier League should still be all right. That shouldn't be a problem. The League Cup was won against Arsenal. And yeah, Arsenal were really, really bad in that particular game. So it's two down. The league, I think we can say the league is done. The gap is too big. And that's a League Cup definitely done. So still doing well in the Champions League. It's no matter what, it's still been a successful season, a brilliant season. And I think it's absolutely a guarantee City will win the league. So, but yeah, that Wigan game, you couldn't make it up. Just a week after saying they're going to win everything, and then they go and lose a game. I certainly didn't expect them to lose. But that's football. I guess it's the beauty of it, isn't it? But I tell you what, this VAR, this VAR nonsense, the video replays, is absolutely atrocious. If anybody watched the Tottenham-Rochdale game the other night, that was scandalous. It really was. And it just takes away the emotion, the drama, the heat of the moment. When your team scores a goal, everyone's jumping around, you're excited. But now, these days, it's almost like you've got to wait to see if the goal's given, and then you can start celebrating. It's not instantaneous. It's really, I think I might be exaggerating. Maybe I'm being a tad melodramatic and maybe overreacting. But I think this has the potential to eventually kill off the game as we know it. It's just, I don't like it. I haven't since day one. Just not been a fan. I don't like goal line technology. It's like all this money's at stake. I get that. Teams want the right decisions made because it's costing money. But I don't care. Football shouldn't be about money. It should be about just trying to be the best team and winning the game and the pride of winning a cup and putting out your best team. So I'm sick of all this money in football. Don't get me wrong, there's always been money in football. Always. Since day one, it's been about money. But it was always a nice balance. It was about the community. It was about money as well. And these days, it's 99% money and then the 1% about the fans. But even then, that's very much under duress. I don't like it. It's not good. And it's pricing out a lot of kids. But again, maybe that's an argument for another day. And then the last thing I'll talk about when it comes to football, and this is kind of interesting because I'm thinking about no guarantees, especially not with me, because I always change my mind. Or I'll do one vid and then never do another one. But the MLS, which is the Major League Soccer, starts this weekend. And I thought, you know, it might be quite interesting to do some American football or soccer vids, because let's face it, 99% of people who are watching this in the UK, you don't watch the MLS. Because, well, the standard really isn't that great, although it's better than what you probably think. But obviously it's not up there with the top leagues in Europe, or the world for that matter. But it's improving all the time. And there are still some good players. We've had the likes of, obviously they've retired now, the likes of David Beckham, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, Kaká at Orlando City retired last year. Andrea Pirlo retired from the New York City FC, who are tied with Manchester City. It's like a feeder club, essentially, if you want to look at it that way. So there's been some really good players. Robbie Keane, he's still playing, I think, in India now, isn't he? But he was in LA for a while. So there's been a lot of good players, and there's still some good ones knocking about. Didier Drogba's still in America, although he's not in the MLS. He's in that kind of the next division down. So, yeah, it might be interesting to watch. Also, there's a new team called Los Angeles FC. Obviously, Los Angeles in California. I'm in California. Now, LA's miles and miles and miles away. You know, California's a massive state. It is enormous. So it's not exactly next door to me. But the fact it's in California is a nice little touch, a personal touch. And I'm thinking maybe I should adopt them as my team. Maybe I should, because I've never really done it. I kind of like the Galaxy because of the glamour, if you like, that they had with Beckham and Gerrard and Robbie Keane and other players for that matter. But I never really took to them, not fully. So maybe I can embrace this Los Angeles FC. They've just started. At the time of making this vid, they've not even played their first game because the season hasn't started. So it could be a good opportunity, maybe to climb on board and maybe get some of you lot involved. Maybe because, you know, the glamour, the razzmatazz, if you like, of something new, the American Football League or Soccer League. So what I like about Los Angeles as well is their official name is Los Angeles Football Club, LAFC. So ditching the soccer. That's good. It's always a positive sign. So yeah, I may do that going forward. Maybe every week, maybe every couple of weeks, maybe once a month, maybe once a year, maybe one video and never do another one again. But Major League Soccer, I might do something like that. If you're totally in favour of it, let me know. If you're not, let me know. No, just don't say anything. Because don't say anything at all, actually, because if you want to do it and loads of people say, yeah, that's a great idea, then I'll probably do one and then be too lazy to do another, and everybody will be disappointed. But we'll see. I'll watch the round of games at the weekend, and if the standard's pretty good and I feel there's something to talk about and people may be interested, then I may do a video. So keep your eyes peeled for an MLS series. Absolutely no guarantees. Definitely not, but we'll see. And then the last thing I want to talk about in terms of topics, like I said, it's pretty thin on the ground this week. Just basically because I've been feeling a little bit kind of under the weather. But maybe next week we'll get back to talking about some proper meaty topics. But, I mean, this is kind of a meaty topic in a sense. I was watching a video by Lloyd, TwitttheShred. Lloyd, a bit like Steve, is someone who I've been watching for years. Lloyd's had a channel for pushing a decade. And although he's considerably younger than me, I think he's like in his mid to late 20s. Sorry, Lloyd, if I've kind of aged you there. 25, 26, 27. Am I adding years to you here? He's around about that age, give or take. Not that it matters. But anyway, he's a nice lad. I watch quite a lot of his stuff. I don't comment too much, but I tend to watch quite a lot. And I discovered his channel, oddly enough, about 5 years ago, there or thereabouts. Again, much like Steve, nothing to do with gaming. I, believe it or not, was doing a search on YouTube for guitar solos of the Red Dwarf theme. I play the guitar myself, and I thought I wouldn't mind, learning that. And quite a few came up, some of varying quality. That's an understatement. And then Lloyd's came up, and I thought that was really good. I liked it. I think since then, he's done a more of an updated one. Or maybe it was the one I watched was the more updated one of a previous one. I'm not sure how it worked, I can't remember. But either way, I saw that video and I was like, that's really good. I checked out some other vids and they were decent. I don't think, as well, at that time he had any gaming videos up. But I do stand corrected. But I just liked how he came across on cam. He seemed pretty nice and friendly. So I subscribed and since then he's started making gaming vids. And now he does vlogs. And yeah, again, if you're not aware of Lloyd's channel, please check it out. I'm sure I've mentioned, well, I know I've mentioned him before. So you probably are aware of him, but if not, check out his channel. But anyway, what Lloyd was doing, he was making this video about YouTube partnerships and monetization. And I know this has been talked about in recent weeks quite a lot. And in fact, I talked about it myself in the last vlog, pretty briefly, I think. But what I liked about this vid is in the video itself, Lloyd had his analytics up on a page. So as he was doing that, I was kind of watching it with my analytics up, kind of comparing views and numbers and all that kind of stuff. And they really weren't that dissimilar. They were quite similar, really. I left a comment about that on Lloyd's vid, and he seemed quite surprised. He thought my views and numbers in general would be much bigger than his. But I think because Lloyd uploads a lot of vids, so, and I don't. It's like, at the moment, it's every 2 weeks, which is a bit lazy. Lloyd tends to do maybe 2, 3, 4 a week, even though they're quite short, for the most part, relatively speaking. He uploads quite a lot, and that could be a reason behind the growth of his channel. But anyway, I found it really interesting to watch. Now, Lloyd, I think it's fair to say, you know, he'd like to have the monetization, he'd like to have the partnership, because it was essentially taken off him because he didn't meet the threshold of like 4,000 hours viewed. And I'm not sure if he met the subs criteria. I think he did, actually. But in terms of hours watched, he hadn't quite met that. And he was saying, oh, it's a shame because he kind of wanted that and it's been taken away. But he was also saying how easy it should be, really, to get those views. And I agree. You know, looking at my analytics, it's quite clear if I wanted to get a lot of people watching my channel, or if you want to, anybody should be able to meet this threshold of 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours viewed. It shouldn't be that difficult. I think basically all you need is regularity. Upload a lot of vids. Now, at the same time, you've got to be careful. You know, don't just throw any old content out there. It can't be rubbish, which I appreciate is subjective. But put some time and effort into it. You know, make it a good vid that people are going to watch. Make it entertaining. And if it is, people, and if it's relative, and if it's topics people want to hear about and talk about, and you know, kind of get involved with in the description box with communication, then if you do that, people are going to watch. Absolutely. And the more videos you do, again, especially as well, if you keep them quite short, I think that's the thing. That's part of the, you know, I was thinking about this. Listen, I don't have any plans or desires to monetize my channel at all. At all. I never have. But if I wanted to, then maybe the thing to do would be to shorten my vids. Because really, in terms of retention figures, how many people out there watch a Friday Brew from start to finish? Not many. I think a lot of people will skip between the topics. And understandably, they'll skip between topics as well, because some of them might not interest you. Football. You might have just listened to that, but you half listening because you don't care. Some people just skip straight through it. We're all different, of course. But yeah, so if I was to make my videos, my Friday Brews, half the time they are, I think more people would probably watch. But it's not about that for me. It never has been. It's all about me and my channel and my rules. And that's how it should be. You know, our channels have to be reflective of our own interests and personalities. It just has to be. You know, the minute you start conforming, I honestly think that's the minute you've lost the plot. Really. You've got to do what makes you happy. But with that said, I will be honest, if you go back many years, you know, if you remember when the whole kind of YouTube drama kicked off about monetization, and it was a big deal, and 90% of the community just did not like people monetizing their channels. It was a problem. And I've got to be honest, I was one of those people, I didn't like it. But, you know, I'll be equally honest. As time has gone on, I've kind of somewhat switched my view, because whilst I don't monetize my channel, and I don't intend to, although if everybody else did, I might do. You know, I'm not one of those people, like, oh, if someone jumped off a cliff, would you? Well, obviously not. But if everyone started monetizing their vids, I may consider it. But I'm not that bothered about it. But these days, I just kind of view it and think, so what? It's someone's channel. It's your channel. It's your life. If you want to earn a few quid, and it might not be much. It might be £1 a week. It might be a fiver. 50 quid a month. I don't know what it is. But that could buy you a new video game. It could buy you a book, a CD, a vinyl, a new pair of jeans. It could go towards paying the bills. You know, you can use it on whatever you want. It's free money. Now, if you want to do it, you do it. I just don't care. It doesn't bother me. Now, here's the kicker, really, for me, or the thing. I have ad block installed, so I don't ever see any of these ads. So it doesn't really bother me. So I will say that, I'll be honest. And I think most people do. I can't remember the last time I saw an ad. I've forgotten what it's like to see one. So if you were to take ad block off my computer and I started to see all the ads coming on again, I may change my tune. It may start annoying me. Because I know at the time it really did annoy me, the ads. 30 seconds or so. It's like, bloody hell. But I know a lot of people kind of counter that by saying, oh yeah, but they're willing to support their friends. I get that, and to a degree, yeah, me too, to a degree. But a lot of ads can wear thin. So, but still, I do maintain that if you want to put monetization on your channel, and of course that will mean ads, then if you want to do it, do it. And you shouldn't listen to what anyone else says, especially someone like myself who has ad block, who doesn't see them anyway. But yeah, I'm just not as against it as I used to be. So, but I found it really interesting because Lloyd, obviously, like I say, he wouldn't mind the monetization. He wants the partnership and all that kind of stuff. But it's something that doesn't really bother me. But the analytics that I found quite fascinating. You know, in terms of views, I actually do quite well. If you look at the 5 videos that I've made so far this year, well, 4, I guess, because I'm counting this one as the 5th. Counting it because it is. But yeah, the 3 Friday brews and the 1 pickups vid, I think they've all got around about 400 views. Now, bear in mind, I've got 1,500 subscribers, and quite obviously many of those will be inactive channels. Then 400 views for 1,500 subscribers, all of which, like I say, aren't active, is actually really good. I'm pleased with that. So I think the potential is there. Like, if I wanted to grow as a channel, I think I could, but I'd have to upload regularly. And I mean very regularly. Like the Friday brews would have to be like every week. And I can't be bothered. I really can't. You know, when you're working and you've got other interests and other hobbies, it just doesn't bother me. Having a YouTube career has never, ever bothered me. That's one of the reasons I'm only, and I'm not complaining, but only on 1,500 subs after 7 years. I think it's 7 years of making vids. It's not that many. But it's never bothered me. It's all about putting out the videos I want at the leisurely pace that I want and talking with like-minded people. You know, I don't want to be a massive YouTuber. I wouldn't mind the money. I'm not going to lie. Who wouldn't? But I don't want all the attention. I don't want all the negativity, because the more subs you get, the more negativity you encounter. It's just a fact. I just can't be bothered with that. I'd rather just be kind of a what's that phrase? I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but it's just a phrase which is out there. Like a hidden gem of a channel. I'm happy with that. A cult. And I did say that word, right? Cult. Careful. A cult channel. I'm kind of happy with that kind of tag. Hidden away in the background. One which maybe not a lot of people know about, but if you discover it, you think, that's pretty good, that. I'm happy with that. That's for me, that's great. But I don't any longer have any hard feelings. Well, it was never really hard feelings to begin with. But I don't have a problem, I guess, with people out there who want to make a career of YouTube. Why not? At the end of the day, who wants to work in an office from 9 to 5? Who wants to work in a factory? Not many people. If you give them a choice, you know, what would you rather do? Would you rather do that, slave away from 9 to 5 or work nights? Or would you rather have a YouTube channel, upload videos like 2 or 3 a day about gaming, about music, about football, about life, and you'll get paid for it? Well, yeah, who wouldn't want to do that? So, yeah, if you want to do that, good luck to you. Absolutely. As a bloody truck goes by. Of course it did. That's annoying. First one of the day. So, yeah, anyway, so we're going to move on to the questions. Now, if you have any questions, or the answers to the questions, I guess. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the description box. If you don't have any, it's not a problem, because I'm still going to make the vlog anyway. So please don't feel obliged. I know I always say it, but it's true. So, the first question is from Damo. Thank you, Damien. Question for the next brew, which is this one. What would be your desert island game? A desert island game, eh? Let me see. So, what are these situations, what are the circumstances, I should say, for this desert island? Yes, I'm taking this a little bit too seriously, but how long are we on this island for? How many people are there? Are we going to get rescued? I'll presume we are. So, let's just say I'm taking this way too seriously. Let's say we're on this desert island. Let's presume there's electricity. Obviously, that'd be a bit harsh to give me a game and then no electricity to play, to use the computer with. That'd be ridiculous. So, and we're going to get rescued in a few days, but I've got to pick one game. Got all the food, water, obviously plenty of water if you want salt water from the sea, but proper food, proper water, all the amenities. We've got everything. But one game. Let me see. How about, well, what would it be? I definitely wouldn't take like a sort of a first-person shooter. That would get a little bit boring, especially if it's for like a few days. A puzzle game would probably stress me out. The first-person shooter, just to elaborate on that, would probably, I'd get bored. You know, you'd just be doing the same thing, and then you'd finish the game as well quite quickly. A driving game, maybe like a Gran Turismo or a Forza 7, not bad. I'd probably have to go with something like a football game. It's a football-heavy video, this one, isn't it? Yeah, something like a FIFA. And when I say FIFA, just in case I'm ever on this desert island, I don't want you pulling a sneaky trick out your bag and giving me like FIFA 96 on the PlayStation 1. That'd be rubbish. I mean, I love it in terms of nostalgia, but I couldn't play that for like a week on this desert island. Forget it. No. So FIFA 18, specifically FIFA 18. And the reason why I'd say a football game is because the possibilities are pretty much endless. You know, you can win a game, draw, you can lose, it can go to penalties. A game can finish 5-0, 10-0, 4-3. There could be a lot of drama. There's a lot of possibilities. It's pretty much limitless in terms of your experience. So, yeah, FIFA 18 is my answer. So thank you, Damien, for your question. Steve, AdiSneakerFreak. Thank you, Steve, for these 3 questions. The first one is, what Amiga game would you like to see remade? Oh, wow, so many. But, I mean, ones that spring to mind, I think of all the ones I used to love, like Lemmings and Secret of Monkey Island, Supercars 2. But would they be great remakes, really? I'm not sure. Maybe some games are best left to the time and the era. It may ruin the memories. Maybe not. I mean, obviously, speaking of football again, obviously, there's the likes of Sensible Soccer, which has been remade. In fact, we touched about it, I think, in the last brew, where we also mentioned Dino Dini's Kickoff Revival, which is clearly a Kickoff remake. Well, that was atrocious. But the one that springs to mind, has just sprung to mind there. In fact, I mentioned Supercars 2, just off the top of my head. That'd be quite good. Supercars 2 being like a driving game, but where your cars have guns attached to them as well, and ammunition. That'd be quite a good one. But the example I'm going to go with is Speedball. Now, Speedball 2, really, I'd love to see that remade. There was a Speedball game, I think, on the 360, wasn't there? But I don't think it was very good. I'm not sure I ever played it. If I did, it was very, very brief. And I'm pretty certain it was a digital game only. In fact, the more I think about it, didn't they have a PlayStation game? Like Speedball 2100 or something like that? Never played it. From what I can gather, it wasn't very good. But a modern game, a PS4 and Xbox One game, I'd love to see a Speedball 2 game. That'd be really good. Yeah, I think like, because the original, well, not the original, that'd be Speedball, but the original Speedball 2, I think that's still a really good game. I was playing that just the other day, and I was having fun with it. The music is good. Playability's still pretty good. It's a little bit slow in a way because, yeah, obviously it came out in, what, 1990? So it would be. But it still holds up. It's still enjoyable. So, yeah, I'm going to go with that, Speedball 2. Let's get on. Let's start a Kickstarter. Let's get that going. That'd be really, really good. I'm going to have a swig of tea while I dwell on Speedball 2 on the PS4. That'll be a really good one. So my Steve's second question is Desert Island Discs, the Britpop years. Oh, now we're talking. Which 3 albums and why? Well, I think 2 artists straight away. You'd have to take Oasis and you'd have to take Blur. And then the third one is a difficult one. Because that could be a plethora of artists. There's the likes of Supergrass, Shed 7, Cast, some really good bands. The Blue Tones, even stuff like Menswear. Yeah, they were pretty good. Elastica, Suede, absolutely fantastic. The Charlatans, Manson, they were pretty good. So many bands. The Super Furry Animals, the Stereophonics. The list really does go on. But yeah, I'd have to take an Oasis album, 100%. In fact, I'd probably take 3 really. But if I tried to mix it up a bit, we'd take What's a Story, Morning Glory, which may be a surprise, because I know a lot of people go with Definitely Maybe, which is obviously bloody amazing. But we'd have to go with Morning Glory for me. I absolutely love it. We'd have that. We'd have to take Park Life by Blur. It was the first album. No, it wasn't the first album I bought by Blur. That one would have been Modern Life is Rubbish in '93, I think I bought that. But I absolutely love Park Life. I remember I did buy that. Technically speaking, my auntie bought it. My auntie Alice. Auntie Alice and Uncle Ted got it for me in Bournemouth when they were down on holiday. And I remember it like it was yesterday. We walked up the high street towards, on the right-hand side, there was John Menzies, where I bought Premier Manager for the Atari ST. I've told that story before. I absolutely love that game. Still got it. And yeah, we were walking up there, and I can't remember the circumstance, but I think I was talking about getting it. And my dad said something like, oh, maybe we'll get it for your birthday or something like that. And my auntie was like, well, I'll get it for you now if you want. And again, me being me, I specifically remember being really guilty. It comes back to Steve, talking about feeling bad taking things off people. And I remember saying to my auntie, I was like, oh, no, it's all right. I'll just get it for my birthday, because I didn't want to say yes. And she's like, no, I'll get it for you. I was like, no. And she's like, come on, we're going. And she front marched me over to John Menzies. We went down there and she bought it for me, which was obviously really, really nice. And yeah, so great album. Park Life by Blur. Absolutely love it. So we're going with Morning Glory by Oasis, Park Life by Blur, and then let's go with, who should we go with? Let's go with Pulp, Different Class, because that was a Different Class album. Some really good songs in there. Something Changed, Sorted for Ease and Whiz, Common People. There's just 3 of the obvious ones, I guess. Yeah, really, really good album. Kind of a pivotal album from the Britpop era. And so we'll go with those 3. But there's so many. There's so many I could choose. Like I say, Supergrass, Ash. I used to love Ash. The list goes on. Steve, honestly, when I'm back in the UK, mate, and we're having a beer, which is your next question I've just noticed, we can probably talk Britpop for hours and hours and hours. Or anyone out there for that matter. I'll talk your ear off. I love it. It's my kind of era. So that's that. And then Steve's third question is favourite lagers or beers? Well, I think that's a good time to have a sip of tea. And there is tea in here. It's not lager or beer. Trust me. Yeah, favourite lagers or beers? Give me 3 that you quite enjoy. Well, the first one, do you know what? I'd get it down, but I can't be bothered. It's up there and I'm too lazy to grab it. Boddington's. I'll put a picture instead. I'm so lazy. It is honestly like just over an arm's reach away, but I can't be bothered. Boddington's. I absolutely love Boddington's. It's not this bias of the whole Manchester thing. Maybe it is partially a little bit. But yeah, I absolutely love it. And you can get it over here, quite obviously. Hence having a couple of cans. So yeah, Boddington, I absolutely love it. It's very light. I don't know whether I don't know the reputation of it. I don't really care. I don't know if people see it as a bit soft. Wouldn't surprise me if it's kind of a soft man's drink, if that's a perception I'd got. But I like it. I really do. It's like creamy at the top. Once you've got rid of that, it's very, very light. You could probably I could easily like down 3 or 4 of them, and you don't really feel the effects. It's just, yeah, it's quite a tame drink. But I'd say Boddington's is absolutely up there. Guinness. Now, Guinness, I love Guinness, but don't get me wrong, I could not have more than 1 in a night. It's very heavy. It really is that kind of stout. It's, yeah, for me anyway. I know friends of mine who could have 3, 4 of them without a problem. I have 1 Guinness and I'm staggering about the place. Mentally, I'm fine, but honestly, my legs, they just buckle. Honestly, I'd be walking home. I'd be walking home. I'd be crawling home if I have more than 1 Guinness. I couldn't do it. But I do like the drink. I know it's not for everyone. So I'd say Guinness. And then the third one, I'm going to say Corona. Being in California, obviously Mexican beer is a big thing. There's Coronas absolutely everywhere. And Mexican restaurants are a big deal in the UK. I remember we went to a few with my wife in the UK, and she just wasn't having it at all. She was like, this is not Mexican. And I guess, yeah, it probably wouldn't be. It wouldn't be very authentic. Now, obviously, I'm not in Mexico. I'm in America. But like I say, with Mexico being on the border, then you're going to get as best an authentic experience than anywhere else in the world. You know, so if it's not going to be in Mexico, the best place to have Mexican beer or Mexican food is California, really. Although Texas borders Mexico, doesn't it, as well? So maybe there as well. Not sure. My American geography is possibly being tested here. But yeah, so I'd say a Corona. Every time we go out to a Mexican restaurant, and there's a few of them around here, I usually buy the same thing, to be honest. It's like a burrito or a chimichanga. It's the same thing all the bloody time. But every time I have one of those, with a side order of beans, naturally, I'll have a Corona every single time. It's very light. The Corona's the kind of beer that you can have 3 or 4 of them and you probably don't feel the effects. But I like it. So there we go, Steve. That's what I'd say. Boddington's, Guinness and Corona. But I like other stuff. I like McEwen's Lager. Although, admittedly, I can't remember the last time I had it. Do they even still make it? Heineken. I'll have a Heineken. You know, I love that. But despite me being a fan of those drinks, I will have one when I go out. I'm a very social drinker. I don't just drink for the sake of it. I'm not addicted to it. I don't drink that often. But if we're out, I'll have a pint. Absolutely. Or Christmas. Christmas is the big one for me. I will absolutely have a drink or two at Christmas. I'm kind of one of those people. I'm like your uncle, sitting in the corner on Christmas Day, asleep after having too much to eat and too much to drink, party hat on, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, flat out. That's me in the chair. And as time goes on, I'm definitely getting even more like that, getting the belly for it as well. You know, Christmas jumper on, asleep, overeaten, drunk. That's where I'm going. That's definitely going to be me in like 10, 20 years' time or more. Jesus, can't wait. Unbelievable. So thank you, Steve. Pete, Snestastic, thanks for these questions, Pete. The first question, everybody bracing themselves for this one. If you were single, would you date a trans girl? Bloody hell, mate. That's quite... I was going to say that's a hard one, but so to speak. Maybe that's not the best choice of words. Would I date a trans girl? Listen, ultimately, once all is said and done, it should, whether it does or not, maybe this is the problem, it should come down to, do you like that person as a person? Do they make you feel happy? Do they give you that feeling? You know, it's like when you love someone, when you care about someone, do you want to be around them? Do they make you laugh? Do they make you feel as if you want to be around them often or all the time or as much as possible? And if that person does give you that feeling, does it matter? Did you hear that? Sick of this. Does it matter if that person is the same sex as you, a different sex to you, or a trans? What's the term? Is it transgender? So many different terms, mate. I'll have to hold my hands up and play the innocent card there. I'm not really sure. Not the innocent card, more the ignorance card, I guess. I'm not really sure. Yeah, and in this day and age as well, you get all these different terms come out, like, oh, you can't say that one anymore. They're now called this. But I thought it was all it was, but we changed it. It's like, I can't keep up. I started this, was it gender fluid? I don't even know what that means. Is that people who don't identify themselves as male or female? Fair enough, but to me that's maybe a little bit silly. I say that with respect. Surely you're one or the other. Even if you change and have the operation, you then surely identify yourself as whatever you've changed to. Gender fluid just seems a bit silly, and no offence. But come on, I think most people would agree with that. It seems a bit silly. So I find it difficult to answer the question, mate, because obviously it's hypothetical anyway. But I'd like to think it would come down to, do I like that person? But of course, then there's the sexual aspect. This is getting pretty full on, isn't it? You know, if it's a man, and then they get rid of their knob, I mean, would you want to? If they get, you know what I mean? It's difficult, isn't it? It's a tough one. Is this cringeworthy watching because it's cringeworthy talking about it? It's a hard topic to talk about, Pete. I've got to be honest. I can't help but come around to the fact that I'd like to think, I know I'm repeating myself, I'd just like to think that if I liked them as a person, it wouldn't matter. But sexually, it could be an issue. Also, I feel a bit embarrassed saying this, but I've just got to be honest. I think part of me would worry what others thought. And that should never be the case. It really shouldn't. We shouldn't care less what other people think. And it's quite sad that we'd allow that to cloud our judgment. But I think most of us, if we're being honest, would say, yeah, I'd probably worry a little bit. Even if it was just a tiny bit, we'd worry a little bit what others would think. How would society feel if they saw us, me, you, anybody, with someone who everybody knew was transgender? Would it be an issue? It might not be for us, but would it be for others? And then would that be a problem? Would that affect the relationship? I'd like to think I and you and anybody else would be strong enough to not let that be a problem. It's a really hard question, Pete. I know you know more about this than me, so maybe you'd want to talk about this on your vid. Maybe that's a question for you to talk about on your Ask SNES, if you were brave enough to do so. Thank you very much for asking. But I've got to be honest, I don't mean this to sound like kind of patronising or condescending in any way whatsoever. I just really hope that in this day and age, with social media and people are, anything goes. And that's good in a way, of course it is, because people can feel free to be whoever they want to be. But I just hope, because it's such a drastic thing, like sex changes, it's drastic. Obviously, you're having operations, you're changing things that you didn't have to begin with. Whether or not, irrespective of whether you feel a man, but maybe you were born a woman, irrespective of feelings, you weren't born with certain genitalia. So to change it is so drastic. So I can only hope that if people go to those extreme measures, that they've done the research, they've had second and maybe third opinions, they've talked about it with friends, and well, friends, yes, but family as well, and they've really thought about it. Because once you make that move, and once you do that, there's no going back. And it's severe. It really is. And there's a big risk, I'm sure. Health benefits, or not. Health effects. So there's a lot to consider, I'm sure. It can't just be a straightforward decision of, you've got a knob, get rid of it, and then you wake up the next day and you're a woman. There's more to it than that, I'm sure there is. Psychological effects. Religious effects. Surely it would cause you to question religion. Because if you were born, say, a woman, but you feel a man, and you genuinely do, then that's going to question you or going to cause you to question religion. Like, why did, God, or whatever it is, why did it make you something that you don't feel you are? So therefore, do you believe in it? Do you think it's a load of rubbish? What happens in, like, the afterlife? If there is an afterlife, would you feel as if you may be punished in a way for doing something drastic to the body that you were given? I know that's deep, and I'm not religious at all. You should all know that by now. I'm not into all that nonsense. And if you are, that's fine. Each to their own. I don't mean to demean anyone. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's a deep kind of topic. It really is. And yeah, I don't know where to stand on that one, Pete. It's, again, I think for the fourth time, I'm going to come round to the fact that I'd like to think I would be with someone who I wanted to be with, irrespective of whatever baggage, if you want to use that term, came with them. It surely comes down to the person. It's a hard question to ask, Pete. Thank you very much. I hope I've done that. I hope I haven't done it a disservice, and I've answered that quite well. I think I did, albeit, repeated myself quite often. It's a tough one. Let's just move on to the second question. Apart from games, music, and football, what else do you like to watch on YouTube? Well, I think you've covered everything there, to be honest. Games, music, and football. I think the other thing that springs to mind is, I'd say, old TV programmes. Being so nostalgic, as I always say. I love to watch old stuff, old episodes of things like, Poirot, Only Fools and Horses, Keeping Up Appearances, old episodes of game shows, like Bullseye I was watching the other day. I mean, it was cheesy, but it was brilliant. Catchphrase, Minder. I watched and have watched and will continue to watch things like the News at 10, a News at 10 episode that has been uploaded in full from like 1990. What else? Like kids' TV show, Saturday Superstore, all that kind of stuff. I love anything nostalgic, and I can watch it almost as if I'm back there in 1990 or 1988 or 1993 or whatever the year is. When I'm watching it, I feel like I'm almost there. So I love that. I love that kind of aspect to it. But other than gaming, music, and football, and other sports, because I noticed that that's your next question. Other than that, I'm not really sure, mate. I think that's pretty much it, to be honest. Question number 3. Are you into any other sports as much as you are into footy? Well, football's my main sport and always has been. But yes, I do like other sports. I'm a big rugby fan. I say big, casual really, but I'm a rugby fan. Now, rugby's split into 2 codes. You've got rugby league and rugby union. And Pete, I know you're not massively into sport, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you don't know the difference between rugby league and rugby union. I'm not being patronising, but I don't think you will, not being a sports guy. Rugby league is basically perceived, at least, as the tough northern sport, if you like. Rugby union is kind of like a stereotypically more of a posh kind of southern thing, and rugby union as well is like the Six Nations, which is taking place right now, which you'll probably see on the news. England, Scotland, all that kind of stuff. Which I do like. But the funny thing about rugby union is I prefer the international aspect of it. I don't really like watching international rugby league. I find it a bit boring, in all honesty. But when it comes to domestic teams, I'm more rugby league, i.e. Super League. But I do like union as well. I haven't got a team. I never really have. But I've liked a few. I like Saracens. I like Wasps. I like Harlequins. I always thought it sounded cool, and I like their shirt and all that kind of stuff, and their badge. When it comes to rugby league, Wigan Warriors, because they just dominated, or before they were Wigan Warriors, just when they were Wigan, they dominated when I was a kid, and so I naturally gravitated towards that. Martin O'Fire, and loads of players as well throughout the history. Dennis Betts, Sean Edwards. So yeah, always been a big kind of rugby league fan, but I do like union too. Now, other sports, I like tennis, but quite frankly, Wimbledon. If it's not Wimbledon, I'm not interested. I'm like most Brits. We don't care about tennis, but when Wimbledon comes around, well, we love it. We watch it. It's amazing. So yeah, I like that. Golf, very, very casual. I can see golf being something I get into more as I get older, but yeah, very casual golf fan. Snooker, I like snooker. Darts, I absolutely love darts. I remember starting to play darts, properly play. I've always thrown the odd arrow here and there. Even as a kid, I had a dartboard when I was like 7. But I remember starting to take it quite seriously in the late 90s and early part of the millennium. When Sky really started to get their teeth into darts. Now, again, darts is a bit like rugby in the sense that you've got 2 codes. You've got the BDO and the PDC. The PDC is Sky Sports. The BDO is the BBC. So it's lesser quality. I know a lot of people will say subjective. I don't think it is. The PDC is the glamour. The rock and roll, if you like, of darts. The Phil the Power Taylors and all that kind of stuff. I know he's retired, but anyway. So I started to really get into darts when the PDC was really starting off. And I remember, I wasn't in a darts club, but I wanted to get into one. I was thinking, you know what, I should maybe get into a team, a local team. So I remember going online, this is around about sort of 2003, give or take, and I contacted the local representative, if you like, at this pub who had a darts team in Bournemouth, in Poole, wherever it was. And I was like, look, I said, I'm no guarantees I'm going to come along or anything. I'm just throwing a few feelers out there. I'm just wondering what kind of standard you want, because I've never played before other than just playing with my friends. I've got a dartboard in like the garage in my bedroom, and I play it every day, but for 20 minutes. I said, I'm not very good. And I remember specifically saying, I've only thrown about 15 180s because I didn't know what's common and what isn't, because everyone who I played darts with, it was just my mates. 2 or 3 mates every now and again, we played darts with. Everyone else just wasn't bothered. So I didn't have a gauge to what the standard was. So I thought like 15 180s or maybe more, whatever I'd thrown, was a bit rubbish. So I typed that in the email. I was like, listen, I've just done about 15 180s and not been playing really for too long. Anyway, this woman replies, I forget her name, and she's like, hi Alex, did you say 15 180s? She's like, I've been playing darts for 20 years and I've never thrown one. She says, you sound as if you're really good. You must join our team. And I was like, really? I just became quite blasé about it. Throwing a 180 was pretty easy in the scheme of things, or getting close to it. But I guess it just goes to show, practice makes perfect. The more you do something, the better you get. So throwing 180s to me was just quite easy, quite frankly. So maybe I should have been a darts player, but I never did join the team. And that was that. Maybe I could have been. Hidden talent. Slipped through the net. Bloody hell. So I think that's it. American sports, never really got into them. Not really. American football a little bit. I've been to a baseball game. Been to a basketball game. It's probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. We went to see... Who did we even see? The Yankees were playing. They're a big team, I guess. But they were playing at the... it was the A's. The Oakland Athletics, so in California. The Yankees came to town, and my side of the family and my wife's side, they're all big New York Yankee fans, and I'm just not into baseball. I find it boring. And it was good being at the game, big stadium, a lot of people, and it was a proper, game. It was a serious game. It wasn't like a friendly or anything. And that was the year that the New York Yankees won the World Series, so it was kind of nice to see a game that, kind of defined their season. But I've got to be honest, during the game, I didn't really know what was going on. And it was just a little bit boring for me. I don't mind American football, but that's because I like rugby. So the two are kind of the same. So that's what I'd say to that one. So thank you, Pete. Oh, there's another question. Do you dual screen when watching a TV show or film? And then in brackets, use a phone or tablet and listen to the TV instead of actually watching it? Yeah, all the time. Well, actually, not really with the TV show. Not really. But when I'm watching a YouTube vid, as some of you may be doing now, I tend to be typing emails out or maybe pottering around the house cleaning up. I know people like Alex, Nintendo Arcade, said he was in the bath the other day. There was a new commenter, apologies I forget your name, but I think you'd left your first ever comment on one of my vids, unless you changed your name, on my last vid, and you said you also have been watching in the bath. There's Soup's Eye View, who commented and said that he was watching a vid of mine, the Friday Brew, while cleaning around his house in the room or whatever. And I don't take offence to that, obviously. That's a compliment. And I'm the same, yeah, especially for long vids. Sometimes it's hard just to stare at my face, for an hour or two. And instead, it's just easier just to type your emails out, watch TV, like you say, Pete, or play a game. I sometimes do that, to be honest, stick the PS4 on with a video going on. So yeah, sometimes I do it, but never really with TV shows, or movies. I tend to concentrate on those, in all honesty. So thank you, Pete, for the questions. Going to have a swig of beer, tea. So the next set of questions are from Dylan Craven, which is John's son, John Craven. Sorry, Dylan. I think I did that gag last time. I'll do it next time as well. Are there any game or games or a price gaming? Did you mean pricey? I think you meant pricey instead of a price. I think you meant pricey. So let's rephrase it with my version, which I hope is right. Are there any games or pricey gaming hardware you had in the past which you've sold on and now regret it? I think regret it to a degree. I've talked about them before, but I'd say maybe my original Super Nintendo, my original Mega Drive, my original Atari ST, anything I had back in the day that I sold, because you didn't and don't think at the time. I certainly didn't then, because you didn't know. Oh, one day I'm going to get really nostalgic and I'm going to have a YouTube channel. So I better keep all this stuff because it'd be really cool. You've no idea. It didn't exist, the internet. So you just get rid of it. That's how I used to work when I was a kid. This is maybe a topic for possibly my next brew, actually. It's a good one. So I won't elaborate too much, but thanks, Dylan, for putting this idea into my head. Although I have thought about this before, but still. In the past, what I used to do is I always used to buy a system And once that system, or get it for Christmas or whatever it was, and then once a new system came out, the old one just got rid of it. And if I didn't sell it, because again, it was pre-eBay, it kind of went to one side and the new one was played instead. So like, for example, like the Amstrad moved on to the Atari ST, moved on to the SNES, and then the Mega Drive, and then the PS1, and then the N64, and the Dreamcast, the PS2. And every time a new one came out, I got rid of the other one. Just got rid of it. Or put it to one side, stuck it in a cupboard. And it really didn't bother me. But with having a YouTube channel and being influenced by YouTubers, we tend to hoard. We hoard all these things. Now, obviously, some of us love having them, so we're not hoarding. It depends how you want to view it. But yeah, I've definitely turned into that gamer where I keep things which maybe I don't really want, but I've got it because I think I want it and because other people have it and it's kind of cool. But yeah, absolutely in the past, I would buy something, sell it, move on, and it just was never an issue. But still, I guess, like I said, that's a different topic for another day, maybe for the next or a future brew. Well, yeah, it's a good one actually. I'll maybe do that. But so yeah. But that said, I will still say things I used to have. I do regret that. If we're talking about games, I'd say, I mean, there's two that spring to mind. I remember in around about 2003, 2004, I had approximately 100 Amiga games, and I was working, but I kind of needed the money, or I wanted the money, and the Amiga games were in a cupboard. I wasn't really playing them. I had about 100, like I say. I had all the good ones, or most of the good ones. Turrican 2, Supercars, Leander, games which now go for a lot of money. And I remember just sticking them on eBay. This was in the early eBay days. And I think just to get rid of them, it was like 80 quid or something. And I knew at the time I knew. So I don't know why I was doing it, other than I just wanted to get rid of them. But I knew, that's the worst thing. I knew they were worth more. But because I wanted to get shot of them, it was like 80 quid, buy it now. Within an hour, someone had bought them, and a guy messaged me, and he said, listen, I live in Bournemouth, do you mind if I come around and pick them up? I was like, yeah, fine, whatever. And I remember like it was yesterday, he came around with his wife, and handed over the money. He had this big grin on his face. I knew instantly that I was making a mistake, and that he must have had a business or something. I remember looking outside the window as he was putting them all into the boot of his car, like 2 or 3 big boxes. And I remember thinking, I made a mistake. I've made a big mistake there. I shouldn't have done that. But I did it, and I just quickly forgot about it. But instantaneously, I knew I shouldn't have done it. So I kind of regret that, because now, of course, I'm buying these bloody things back. And like Turrican was like 30, 40 quid. And that was part of the bundle that I sold for 80 with 100 games. What an absolute knobhead. So I'd say that. And then the other one that springs to mind is Demon's Crest on the SNES, on the American SNES. Now, I did a gameplay for that, still on my channel. I think at the start of the vid, I showed the box and talked a little bit about it. I can't remember what I said on the vid, but I think I said something quite funny now, that like, oh, you know, it's quite expensive. It was like $80, because that's how much it was at the time. And to me, $80 for a game back then, that was quite a lot of money. But now it goes for like 300 or more. And I remember selling mine for like 180 or something. So I basically doubled my money. So I felt really good about the fact that, you know, well, I bought it for like 80 and I got like, 180 for it. So, which is more than double, I guess, isn't it? Because 80 would be 160. But whether it was double or whether it was just more than double, I made a profit. And I remember thinking, well, that's great. But if I'd have kept it, then now I could be getting like 300 for it or more. So that's not a massive regret. But yeah, maybe I shouldn't have sold that. But I'd say my original stuff, the original stuff, which obviously I've started to buy back over recent years, it would be really nice if I still had that, to have that personal touch. I'm just glad that I still have 90% of my original Amstrad games. They're all in the UK. They're at my mum's house. But I do still have them, and I'm really pleased with that. So thank you, Dylan, for that first question. And there's another, oh, is there another question? No, thank you, Dylan, for those 2 questions, I should say. Now, the next question is, let me see, is there one? There's 2 here from, this is interesting, Clay Graphic 1. Now, Clay had left a couple of comments, a few comments on recent vids. And I didn't know his name. So I replied to one of his comments and I said, look, mate, I don't know your name, so you might as well tell me now. I said, until you do, I'm just going to call you Clay. And he replied back and he went, well, yeah, that's my name. It's Clayton. So that was a lucky guess. The only Clayton I can ever think of that is out there, maybe there is just one more. It's Clayton Blackmore, ex-footballer. So thank you, Clayton, for these questions. The first one is, I know many reboots haven't done well, but what cartoon from the 80s or 90s would you like to see given a reboot and or made into a video game? And then Clayton's put, mine would have to be the Centurions. Not many people talk about this one, but I used to love watching it on Get Fresh. And then in brackets, Saturday morning kids show with Gilbert the Alien. Yeah, Gilbert the Alien. I remember watching, that was brief, wasn't it? I think also the Centurions lasted only about a year. Something like that. It was kind of a blink and you'll miss it thing. But yeah, Saturday morning kids TV, Gilbert the Alien you've wrote. Yeah, Get Fresh, Ghost Train, Motormouth, Gimme 5, Saturday Superstore I mentioned before. I remember watching that. I was very young when it ended, but I do remember it. Live and Kicking, Going Live. I loved all those. And in fact, Pete's Nastastic. That's another thing I watch a lot of. Or did I even mention that? I think I possibly did. Maybe that's where the Saturday Superstore thing came in. Old TV shows from like when I was a kid. Saturday morning TV shows I'll watch on YouTube. I just love it. It's amazing. So, but yeah, to answer the question, a cartoon. I'm going to go with Dungeons and Dragons, if anyone remembers that. I used to really like it. And if I remember rightly, and I'm not sure I do, maybe it's a Mandela effect, but didn't it end on a cliffhanger where you weren't really sure if the kids made it back into the real world or not? It was something like that. That's what I'm led to believe anyway. But I used to love it when it was on. I really enjoyed that, and I'd liked it. I know it definitely ended before it should have. I think there's like a lost episode. I'm sure it's called Requiem, something like that. And the original writer, is it Michael Reeves? Again, I've probably got that wrong. But I'm sure he wrote, the original writer of the episodes, or of some of the episodes anyway, the original ones. He has written a new script for it, but it's yet to be published. And it'll be like a one-off, a final, there'll be no more after it, is what I'm led to believe. Internet talk, apparently. And then that will be quite open-ended, bit of a spoiler alert, where it will give the kids a choice as to whether they want to go back to the real world or stay. But it won't be definitive. You won't think, oh, they're stuck. It'll give them the choice, but it'll be left to your imagination as to whatever they choose to do. So if and when that episode Requiem is ever made, well, that'll be nice to see. I can't wait to see that, actually. That'll be good. So yeah, Dungeons and Dragons is my answer. And I think the last episode is, what, 1986? Something like that. Around about the same time as Centurions. So Dungeons and Dragons. That'll be a great remake in terms of a cartoon. Or if they just want to make that last episode and get it done with, and put some kind of final kind of say on what happens in the series, that'd be good. Or if they wanted to make it a game, that'd be a good one. Dungeons and Dragons as an adventure game, or a side-scrolling beat-em-up, and you can switch between characters. That'd be a really good one, actually. Kind of like a golden axe. I'd like to see that. Second question. Have you ever come up with a video game idea or thought about a game or concept or a mechanic that you would like to see realised? Now, the only thing I can think of is, and it has been realised, is when we were kids, what we wanted from games, I've mentioned this before, what we always wanted to see, and we talk about it all the time, we wanted to see big open worlds where you can walk down streets, you can get into cars and vehicles, fly planes. If you walked by a house or a building, you could go into that. And to a large degree, we have that these days, like Grand Theft Auto. I guess that's the obvious example that springs to mind. But what I'd still like to see is a world where you can go into every single house, because we still don't see that. So if you're walking down the street or driving or whatever, get out the car or just be walking and go into a house. If you see a door, if you see a window, you can go into it. That's still what I want to see. A fully kind of immersed environment. Gaming hasn't got there yet because maybe, I don't know, you'd just get lost in it, wouldn't it? Wouldn't you, in a world? Even first-person shooters online, it's another situation where there's buildings and things that you're hiding behind. Well, maybe, why can't you go, if you see a door, why can't you go into it? It'll create a nice little escape route as well. So it'll be good for tactics. Or, like Battlefield do, if you see a wall, or if you see anything, you can blow it up. Why not? If you've got like a bazooka or grenade launcher, blow it up. I know people could take the piss if it's an online map and they just blow the entire map to smithereens and you'd be walking around rubble. But I'm sure they could work a way around that. like give people a certain amount of grenades. Like you get one, and you can only have one, for example, every life, or per one member per team has it in their kind of perk system or whatever it is. I'm sure they could do that. But yeah, a big open world is what we wanted when we were kids. We've kind of got it, so I'm happy in that sense. But taking it that one step further, where you can go into every single room, house and building that you see, for me, would be amazing. I'd love to see that. So thank you, Clay, for that question. And then the third one, if you had to do it, in brackets life, all over again, what profession would you choose? Would you be involved in the game industry, coding, designing, etc.? To be honest, mate, I wouldn't be involved in the gaming industry. I remember thinking about it once, so specifically, it's so vivid in my mind. I remember walking back with two friends of mine, Rob and Danny, and we were on our bikes. Back in the day when kids used bikes, you know, that was part of fun, wasn't it? These days, no one hangs out. We'd ride everywhere when we were kids. So we were on our mountain bikes. It was probably like kind of about 1993 time. And we were heading towards, like, you know, that point of our lives in school where we were almost at the point where we were doing our exams, like a year or so away, I guess. And so we were thinking about careers. What do we want to do? And I remember specifically walking down this particular path. If I see a photograph, if I find one, I'll put a picture of it. It'll mean nothing to any of you, but it'll just paint the picture. Specifically where we were when this memory cropped into my head. And I said to Danny and Rob, because we were talking what we're going to do when we leave school next year or the year after. And we talked about maybe we should form like a software company, because we were all into games of Super Nintendo and Amigas and STs, Mega Drives and all that kind of stuff. Maybe we should design games. And we were like, yeah, should we all go to school, to college, to learn how to program? We were like, yeah, it'd be a really good idea. But we never did it. We never thought seriously about it. But for that brief moment in time, in around about the summer of 1993, we thought about it. But other than that, mate, it's not interested me. Gaming has never interested me to do it professionally. If it was up to me, maybe a darts player, obviously, or a footballer, a cricketer. I absolutely love cricket. I didn't mention cricket before, I don't think. I absolutely love cricket. 2020 cricket. I used to love watching the Ashes in Australia, particularly. To play in the Ashes in Australia over Christmas, oh, unbelievable. That was one of my dreams as a kid. So I'd love to do that. I'd love to have been a cricketer. I was pretty good. Played to a semi-decent, obviously amateur level, but I used to like that. My dad's a policeman, so I thought about being a cop for a while. But my ultimate one, if I had to pick one, I guess it's never too late, but if I could choose to be in any profession, I would love to have been, or still would love to be, a teacher, working in a school. I would love that, really would. I remember being in my sort of mid to late 20s thinking, you know, oh, I should go back to school and study. And then I got to but then I thought I was too old in my mid to late 20s. And then I got to my early 30s and I thought, I wish I had done it in my late 20s. You know, because I wasn't too old in my late 20s, but I thought I was. And by which point I was in my early to mid 30s. And I thought, well, I'm way too old for it now. And now I'm in my very late 30s, where 40's staring at me in the bloody face. And I'm thinking I should have done it in my mid 30s. So now I'm in my late 30s, almost 40s. I'm thinking to myself, I should really do it. And of course I'm not going to, which is a shame, because I'm going to look at this 5-10 years from now and I'll think, I was only 40, or I should have done it. And of course, yeah, that's just life, isn't it? You should really act upon things, because life is short. So listen, never say never. I may have that kind of eureka moment, as it were, and say, bugger it, let's do it. You only live once, or do you? Maybe that's a topic for another day. And get into teaching. I'd love to do it, but I feel like that ship has kind of sailed, which is quite sad, because I'd love to do it. I think I'd do a great job. I'd absolutely love it. And to work at my old school especially, I know it's obviously nostalgia, and I'd absolutely, that would be the dream. That would be the dream. To live in my old house, that would take it a bit too far, and work as a teacher in my old school. Oh, God, you've got me there. I'd give up a lot of stuff there. I'd give up YouTube for that. I'd give up a lot of money for that. Health, happiness, family, friends, obviously friends, maybe I'd get rid of them. But family and health and happiness and safety, that would always come first, always. But if I could choose that, living in my old house, working as a teacher at my old school, oh God, I would love it, mate. I would absolutely love it. So that's what I choose. So thank you very much, Clay. Oh, and as well, being a rock star as well, being in a band. I was never in a band. Jammed a few times, but again, maybe that's a debate for another day. Thank you, Clayton, for those. And then we've got the last set of questions. This is going to be under 2 hours. Bloody hell. If I do a bit of editing, it could even be under 1 hour. Christ. So it's pretty good. Adam, Shock 16. Let's have a sip, because bloody hell, I've just not stopped. I'm like bloody robot. Adam, Shock 16. Thank you, mate, for these questions. Question number 1. If you got kicked out of the US but was banned from returning to the UK, what other country do you think you would like to live in? Well, I'll tell you what, under a Donald Trump government, I could well be kicked out eventually. You never know, do you? I mean, obviously, I doubt that would ever happen. But that's one of the worrying things. You see, when you start to pick on minorities, let's say religions, for example, and people and ethnicities, when you start to do that, who's to say, as silly as it sounds, who's to say it would never move on from, say, Muslims to, well, now we're going to kick out Brits? It sounds ridiculous. But that's where society could head if you start to single people out. That's the problem I've got with that, one of the many. But obviously, America's a big democracy. Despite its huge problems, it's not that bad, really. So I don't think it would ever get to that point. But if it did, if I was kicked out or if I committed a crime, which I wouldn't do, but if I did, and for whatever reason I was banned from returning to the UK for I don't know how long, where would I live? Excuse me. I would probably, somewhere like Scandinavia. That's always appealed. Like a Denmark, a Norway, Sweden. Obviously, I'm just listing off Scandinavian countries here. Nordic countries, really, like Finland, Iceland. Iceland is one which in recent years, I love the thought of that. It looks really chilled out. People seem really friendly. Just really nice, chilled out. You know, you don't get people who are really hardcore about anything. It seems to be like in those countries, there's a lot of respect. They seem to be very relaxed. Now, I don't live there, so I could be wrong. Maybe in reality, it's no different than anywhere else. But that's just the impression I get. And I love the scenery. There's a lot of snow. There's a lot of snow in the UK right now. I'm really jealous. Bloody everyone, all of you watching this on YouTube, on Facebook, Twitter, putting all your pictures up. Oh, it's snowing. And I'm like, bloody hell, it never snows here in California. Never. And it's annoying. I'd love to walk in the snow. I miss that, I really do. So you'd get a lot of that in Scandinavia. So, but yeah, more for the lifestyle, really, Adam, to be honest. Germany as well, that's another one. I'm quarter German, my grandma, and her side of the family. So, I wouldn't mind that. That'd be quite nice. She's from, like, the Dortmund area, so my German team, one of many. Borussia Dortmund, big team. I like that. But I also like Bayern Munich, because they win everything. I know, such a glory hunter. But yeah, Germany appeals. I like their attitude, for the most part. Maybe not their old attitude in the war. Maybe that wasn't the best one to have. But since then, they've really kind of reformed. And yeah, it's a really nice place. Very progressive. I like Germany, for the most part. Spain. I've been on Spain on holiday, and I love the weather. It's funny, because I've gone from one contrast, or one extreme to the other. I talk about wanting the snow, and then I talk about Spain, where it's bloody boiling hot for the most part. But I'd love to be in somewhere. We went to Tenerife, for example, and all right, it was a holiday, but I loved it. Getting up in the morning and that feeling of the warmth in the air, I absolutely loved it. The only thing about Tenerife is that obviously it's basically a mini United Kingdom, isn't it? Everybody speaks English, and in a way that would possibly tarnish the experience. Because whilst it would be great in the sense that everybody knows English and it's easy to communicate, because everywhere we went they were speaking English. Everywhere. Shops, bars, restaurants, walking through town, you'd pass people just speaking English, because they probably were British, to be honest with you. So it was. I thought that took some of the charm away, a little bit, really. But the weather, the climate, I loved. Whether I could live there permanently in a hot climate, I'm not sure, because I do like the seasons, really. But still, maybe I could, if I was banned from the US and I was banned from the UK, then maybe I could spend a bit of time in, say, Scandinavia, the Nordic countries, and then go to Germany, and then go to Spain. I could just kind of hop around the world like bloody, Phileas Fogg. Maybe I could do that. And then the other one that springs to mind is Australia. Unless it's a part of Australia where there's big spiders, get lost. Not happening. I'm not having that. There's someone, Charlie, she used to be a YouTuber. Channel's still up, but she's not uploaded videos for years and years and years. But she does still use Twitter. And a few weeks back, she put up a picture, like, just that she took in her house, and it was of a spider, which she just casually seen when she's, like, watching TV or cleaning the house. And there's a spider on the bloody wall. And I am not joking. Do you know what? I'm going to put a picture of it. If it's still up, I feel a bit queasy even talking about it. A spider, right, which is about that big, bigger than someone's bloody head, right, and it was on a wall, just casually just mooching about, just walking around, just doing its daily routine. And there is no way I could live in a country where you get spiders like that. Forget it. Not so much a country, but an area of a country. Forget it. But I know not all of Australia's like that. So Australia does appeal, got to be honest. But anywhere where there's like animals and insects and stuff like that, not having it. No way. So that's what I'd say to that. At least we've got Adam's second question, and that is, what's 3 of your favourite controllers or pads for a console, and 3 that you think are the worst? So for me, if I had to pick 3, I'd say the Xbox One and the PS4, but we're counting them as separate, so there's 2 there. And I'll say the SNES. Now, probably not, massively original picking the SNES there, but I just think it's so comfortable. It holds up all these years later. I still really enjoy it. I do like the Mega Drive one, but it's just a little bit, I don't know, you hear the buttons a little bit when you're tapping them. It's a little bit clunkier. I'd love it. I feel bad saying it, but I'd have to say the SNES I do prefer. When it comes to the Xbox One and the PS4, the reason I choose those over the PS3 and the 360, which I do love, and let's face it, the Xbox One and the PS4 are basically just refined versions of the 360 and PS3 controllers. But the reason I choose them, well, it's because of that reason. They're more refined. It's the same, but new. More of the same, but better. It's sturdier. The material's a bit sturdier. It's more durable. Especially, I've noticed with the PlayStation 3. For me, the PlayStation 3 controllers snapped quite easily. When I was playing them, I felt as if they could break. In fact, even with the early PS4 models, I remember talking about it about 4 years ago on Vid, not long after I got a PlayStation 4. I remember saying I'd broken a controller, and I didn't throw it about the room or anything. I don't do that anymore. Last time I did that, I was like 11. But, I mean, it just broke when I was just holding it, pressed down on the button. And it wasn't good enough. But I know, because, well, at least I read, that the early models were quite bad. And since then, Sony kind of went back to the drawing board. And subsequent PlayStation 4 DualShock controllers have improved big time. And I've got to say that must be true. It must be, because I've never had a problem since. So I think they've strengthened the plastic they use. And as a result, yeah, I really like them. So I'll say Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Super Nintendo. Put them in whatever order you want. But I'd say that. By the way, I've just noticed it's really, really dark. Just in case you're wondering, it's actually really kind of cloudy outside. Raining a little bit as well. So just in case you're wondering, not that it matters. It's not bright and sunny, so forget sunny California. It's kind of cloudy and a little bit rainy California, to be honest. Hence the dark. But I quite like it, because I like seasons, like I say, so it doesn't bother me. It's funny, because there was a drought. We're going to have to go back about 2 or 3 years, but it didn't rain for the best part of nearly 2 years. It was ridiculous. It really was. And I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather it piss down relatively regularly than a drought. I'm not into that. Anyway, so the second part of Adam's question, the worst controllers. Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with the Wii U. I know you can buy like the Pro controller, which I did have at the time. But the standard, that big bloody beast thing with the monitor, no, not for me. It was kind of unusual, and it sort of worked. It was unique. Maybe I just need to spend more time with it, but nah, not for me. Didn't enjoy it. The N64 controller, absolutely not a fan of. But back in the day, I loved it. It was brilliant. But I remember going back to the N64 like a few years ago, and we were playing like, what was it, like a Perfect Dark or a GoldenEye, and not just had the games themselves aged badly to the point where I thought, oh, bloody hell, I'm not sure I want to get back into the N64, because it just looked terrible. Again, I always say it, it's a 3D polygon style, because it was the late 90s, what do you expect? mid to late 90s. That was fashionable back then. And it looked good at the time, you know, with the faces that were kind of wrapped round, you know, like the polygons. And now you look at it, it's like, it just looks absolutely dreadful. Hilarious more than anything else. But yeah, the controller I used to like, but going back to it now, I find it awkward. Now, all right, admittedly, like anything, the more you use it, the better at it you'll get. You acclimatise to it. So if I was to spend a prolonged period of time, now or in the future, you know, with an N64 controller, yes, I'd get used to it, and it would be, you know, like, you know, taking to water off a duck's back, whatever the phrase is. It would be easy. But right now, I struggle with it big time, and I just don't think it's aged very well. And to be perfectly honest, maybe I'm making excuses there, saying, oh, if I spend time with it, I have spent time with it. It's quite awkward. If it wasn't for the nostalgia factor, the N64 would be something that I'm just not into, but I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I think you all know that by now. But I'm still going to have to throw it in as one of the worst. I'm sorry, I feel bad doing it, but it's just not aged very well. That stick, the D-pad's fine. The shoulder buttons and the yellow control buttons, all right, they're a bit awkward, but I could probably work around it. The Z button, the Z button, there's another one for pronunciation we were talking about before. Adidas, Puma, Z. But yeah, underneath as well, that was kind of awkward. But it was the stick more than anything on the N64 controller. It was just really loose, and no, not having it. And the Atari Jaguar, bloody hell, that is probably the worst one. That is the worst one. I've got personal experience with it as well. I used to have a Jag, and not the car, unfortunately, maybe one day. But I had the Jag as in the Atari Jaguar console. And it's just this big, bulky, bloody thing of grey, black redness. And it was just so rubbish. And you could get these, which in theory was a nice little unique novel idea, but you get these kind of game kind of cards, if you like, and you put them over in theory, or in practice what you meant to do is put them on the controller, and different buttons would do different things depending on what the game is. And that was kind of nice, but a bit of a gimmick, really. But that aside, it was too big. It just didn't feel right, and I was never a fan of it. So there we are. If you've got any other questions, please feel free to ask, and I'll answer them in 2 weeks' time. Please also don't feel obliged whatsoever to ask any questions. If there are no questions, I'll just do a vlog, and also the video will be substantially shorter as a result. So maybe that's what people want. We'll see. Anyway, until my next vid, thank you for watching. The next vid, I guess, will probably be a pickups vid. Maybe. But no promises. But I do have a few games, so I guess I'd better do that vid soon. But either way, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.